We're born with what is called two types of sin. You got inherited sin, and you've got imputed sin. I don't want to get too complicated here, but basically it's this. Inherited sin says this: you are born with DNA, spiritual DNA, that bends you towards sin. You are inclined to sin from your mother's womb. Behold, from my mother's womb, I was a sinner. In sin, my mother conceived me, David said. But you're also born with what's called imputed sin. This is the federal headship of Adam. Imputed sin says that you're held guilty for Adam's sin. This isn't only that you inherit a DNA that moves your spiritual DNA that inclines you towards sin, but you're already guilty. You're guilty of Adam's sin. In one man, Romans 5 says, Paul says, all were condemned. The gavel was struck. It's as if you committed Adam's sin. Through one man's sin entered into the world, and death through sin. Because everybody dies shows that they are condemned in such a way. Okay, so how did Christ escape that? Isn't Christ condemned because he was born of man? Well, here's the best we got here, okay? And I think it's decent. And I don't know if you'd agree. You can add to this if you'd like.
You have to share it first, and then I'll tell you if I agree.
But I do think that that has to do with the virgin birth. I think that it's very possible, sorry men in the room, but that imputed sin, not so much the same thing as inherited sin, but imputed sin goes through the male. And therefore, whenever Christ was born of a virgin, not only was it showing his deified nature, or the deity that he had, but also he was not born condemned as the rest of the human race. So therefore, he was not born under the federal headship. That's the best I got. I think it's the best we got.
I think it works, and I think it might even be what Luke is hinting at in Luke chapter 1 when he shares the angelic announcement to Mary. The angel comes and announces that the child that would be born of her would be born of a virgin. He said, the Holy of the Most High shall overshadow thee. Therefore,
quit doing your King James English.
Thus, no, that's the ESV. I just picked it up and looked at it. Therefore, that which is born of you shall be called holy. And he seems to be suggesting, there's Luke 1, 35 and 36, he seems to be suggesting that the reason for the virgin birth is so that Jesus would escape that imputation of original sin. Yeah. And Luke builds on this idea of representation a lot. Yeah. If you look at his genealogy, and I may have mentioned this before, but it's really neat. Luke does something very different with his genealogy. You think that's a boring part of the Bible, right? Oh, long list of names. But Luke doesn't do what Matthew does. He doesn't start at the beginning and grow chronologically. He flips his genealogy around backwards so that it starts with the end and ends with the beginning. He intentionally ends his genealogy with Adam. And he puts his genealogy in a really funny place. He puts it right before the temptation of Jesus. And it's Luke's way of saying, I'm quite convinced, and Darrell Bach agrees with me, and so when Darrell Bach says something about Luke, I just take it as it's to the gospel. Bank. Yeah, it's gospel. He says that genealogy has been put in that place and flipped around like that because Luke's intending to say, as Jesus goes to face the temptation in the wilderness, he's just as much our representative as Adam was. But whereas Adam failed when he faced the devil, Jesus succeeds. And it's a beautiful picture. I think Luke got it from his friend Paul. Yeah, they traveled together a lot, talked together a lot.